Hi, y'all. It's Tasha again, and you can only hear my voice. This particular video, I decided to leave my camera off. I typically talk on the phone a lot throughout the day, and it always fascinates me how just hearing the tone and the affliction of one's voice, you can literally kind of even visualize, right? Like what their facial expression is doing, kind of like maybe even in your head what they look like as a person. So, nevertheless, it's always fascinated me the power of our voice. So, I'm going to use that today in this very short video. I'm not going to be long with you all today on a great Sunday. It's a beautiful fall Sunday here in Chicago, by the way. It's like 50 something degrees. The leaves are on the ground. They're beautiful and they're colorful. So it's like literally dreamy fall. And not to mention this high-rise buildings are awesome. I'm downtown Chicago right now. But nevertheless, I'm coming to you live from my office here. And I'm going to just quickly go through the three top exit strategies when purchasing notes. A lot of questions that I was asked by investors was like, one of the top questions was like, how do I exit through to the real estate? Like, if I don't want to deal with the borrower, I don't want like the passive payments, I just want to get the property, that's perfectly fine. You can totally do that with purchasing notes. And I'm going to give you the top three strategies right now so you can jump right into it. I'm going to go ahead and present my screen. Awesome. So you should see my screen here. So basically, again, this short video is going to go over the exit strategy when pursuing and purchasing notes. One thing I want to make clear that I always point out as the pro tip, number one tip, is to be sure that you establish a strategy before you make an offer. I've seen way too many times where investors will make an offer and then that offer, once they've done their due diligence, it just doesn't match up in reference to profit or make sense even. So it's best to know how you're going to exit prior to you making an offer, because that obviously affects timeline. It affects numbers, right? Based on how you're exiting. So without further ado, the first strategy would be foreclosure. That's very common amongst non-performing loans, right? Essentially, if you want to exit through to the real estate, you get in first lien position and you continue through with that foreclosure, right? The three questions that you want to ask yourself are, is it a judicial or non-judicial state? Why? Well, if you watched my previous video, you will know that that is because um, you got to know the timeline, right? Is it going to take me 1,000 years to get out of this thing? Is it going to take me forever to get through to this property and get it to foreclosure sale? So you definitely want to make sure you understand which state you're in and the type of judicial or non-judicial foreclosure process you're dealing with. Second one is going to be the status of the foreclosure. How far has the current lender gotten into this process, right? Are they still at the notice of demand letter, like the actual beginning? Or have they kind of moved it along and the attorney's pretty good and they've gotten it through to judgment, right? So we want to know what the status is currently. And you also want to know, is the borrower going to contest this foreclosure? Are they still emotionally attached to this property where it could be an issue if they're even going to leave or not? Right? So we need to know that as well. So a couple other questions you want to make sure you're asking is, what's the remaining cost to finalize the foreclosure? That's going to affect your expenses and what's currently on title, right? Are there any liens behind mine? Are there any new judgments or anything that's popped up on there on the title report? Second strategy, short sale. I actually have a cool story. I actually worked with a investor. His name is Kevin out of New Jersey. He bought a note. He almost literally did this deal like perfectly. I mean, it was one of the best to me strategy executions I've seen thus far. But before I go into that story, three questions you want to ask yourself. Has the borrower expressed interest in selling the property already? Are they wanting to get rid of it? Do they want to get from underneath this burden issue that's causing them stress every night? What is the value of the property as is, right? Are you, is it worth even being able to resell? And then what is the estimated total debt on the property? Like, how much do they owe versus how much the property actually is worth. And if you understand short sale, you know that the borrower would need to have owed more than the house is worth, which creates a short sale situation. It's a shortage, right? So for example, if the borrower owed 100,000, but the house is only worth 50,000, then that's a short sale, right? They're upside down in the mortgage. They owe more than the house is worth. So here's a quick example with Kevin. So Kevin bought 415 Illinois and New Jersey for $115,000 from Oak Harbor Capital. That was the seller of the note. So the Oak Harbor Capital was the lender that currently held the note, right? And they are selling it to Kevin. So when reading through the service notes, which are very important when you're thinking about strategy and if you're able to execute that strategy, he discovered that the lender would not agree to a deed in lieu or a short sale, right? The lender just wanted the borrower to catch up on the payments. They wanted the money, and that was it. But the borrowers were trying to close out their mother's estate. The mom had passed. It was a probate situation, and they simply just wanted to walk away from the property. The estimated total debt on the property was about 200,000 round out about, and the as-is value of the home was 150. So you see they were upside down, obviously, right? So Kevin, after he purchased the note, by reviewing the service notes, understanding that the borrower did want to cooperate with getting rid of the property and selling it, and even had someone in mind they could sell it to, right? Now he's the lender. He approved the short sale for 150. He forgave the deficiency. That's spelled incorrectly. I am a stickler for that, and that's really bad. He forgave the deficiency that the borrower owed, right, from that 200,000 subtracted from that 150,000. And then he flipped that property by working with the borrower. He avoided hefty fees, a foreclosure timeline, and he made about 35,000, let's say roughly, in profit in less than 6 months of the acquisition of the note. So that's just like literally an example of perfectly executing what, the numbers are able to prove. Is this profitable? Will this house sell? Is the borrower cooperative? Have they tried to execute this in the past? So all these different questions led up to this particularly well-played strategy. So that's an example of flipping a note, right? Exiting through to the real estate. So then you have a deed in lieu. So the deed in lieu is every investor's dream. Like, this is the dream exit, right? The borrower is giving up the deed voluntarily. They're basically saying, here you go. We can't afford this. We are way in over our head. Our life changes have happened, and we just can't do this anymore. So what they're doing is they're voluntarily giving you the deed in lieu of going through foreclosure. So what does that help you as a purchaser do? It helps you, avoid hefty costs of foreclosure. Hello. Avoid the timeline of the foreclosure, right? 60 days max. And then obviously have a property that you're able to execute and do as you please with. So typically with this strategy, there are 3 questions you want to ask. What's on title? Are there any other liens that need to be closed out because they have to get paid too? And then what's the value of the property, right? Is it worth, again, always what's the value? What's the value? You're purchasing the note. Yes, that's the controllable part. But there's also an asset attached to that note that you want to make sure is worth some money, right? So just as if you were buying a real property. And then cooperative, how cooperative is the borrower, right? Are they willing to move forward and execute this strategy? Because they have to obviously be willing to do that. And also there's a cash for keys component with this particular strategy. So you want to kind of keep that in mind when you're reviewing expenses, that the borrower will probably want a cash for keys situation. But again, it beats having to go through a lengthy process and litigation of foreclosure, and obviously saves time and money. So these are the top 3. I told you I wouldn't keep you long. These are the top 3 strategies when you're thinking about exiting through to the real estate with notes. Sorry about that. And again, it's being brought to you by Explore Management LLC, where we assist through education and execution in investors with investing strategies that will help grow their portfolios, typically in the area of mortgage note investing, tax lien certificate investing, and real property investing. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe so that you can get all of my other videos. Like literally as soon as I drop them, it should be like a notification that something else awesome has came through. And I hope that you're enjoying your Sunday just as much as I'm enjoying mine. Have a good one until next time. Ciao.